Good morning and thank you for joining us here on Up with KREM. I'm Tim Pham. We also want to welcome you in if you're streaming us on KREM 2+. Let's get you out the door by checking in with today's weather forecast with meteorologist Thomas Patrick. Thomas, what do we need to know about this Wednesday?
Yeah, good Wednesday morning to you, Tim. And for today, should be an overall pleasant and calm weather day ahead of us. Little bit of patchy fog just now developing at the airport, but it looks very isolated at the moment. So 99% of us pretty much good to go for today. Just a standard chilly morning out there with temperatures in the 20s and 30s. It is January after all, so I'm not too surprised there. But the fog just now starting to develop around the western plains of Spokane County. Again, nothing unusual for those parts. Otherwise, most of us will start the day with sunshine once we get to sunrise.
Here's a live look outside of I-90 right now. You can see some of that, maybe that patchy fog developing in the western part of Spokane County at the split there at US 2. Overall, though, your morning commute should be okay in terms of fog, but you may encounter some of it in certain places. We'll keep a close eye on the fog conditions throughout the morning and if it impacts your commute. On Up with KREM, we bring you weather and traffic together every 30 minutes. Today, Bob Ferguson will be sworn in as Washington's next governor. He will succeed Jay Inslee, becoming the 23rd governor of the Evergreen State. Ferguson says he's prepared to take on Washington's biggest challenges and the changes on the way at the national level. Ferguson is proposing sweeping budget cuts to address Washington's $14 billion budget shortfall. He's asked agency heads and higher education institutions to find savings of roughly 3% and 6% within the budget, saying that could save the state $4 billion. He also acknowledges the political shift coming with the Trump administration. He's taken legal action against the administration in the past and says he isn't afraid to do it again.
We have spent time preparing as an attorney general now, as an office, for the new administration based on what they put on paper with Project 2025 to make sure if he acts on those things in a way that we think is unconstitutional and exceeds his authority, that harms Washingtonians, well then of course it's our duty really to act. My job is to be a good governor for all Washingtonians. That's important. That's my focus.
Ferguson said he's also prepared to address the needs in public education, saying there needs to be greater investment, especially for mental health and special needs students. Washington Governor Jay Inslee, meanwhile, touting his accomplishments in his final State of the State address yesterday. In yesterday's speech, Inslee spoke about his political victories, pointing to the capital gains tax, the paid family leave assistance program, and the Climate Commitment Act, aimed at reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
The secret of our success is we don't leave anybody behind. We follow the science and we work together to make extremely difficult decisions.
Inslee spent 12 years as governor starting back in 2013. He's the third governor in Washington state to serve 3 terms.
3, 2, 1, march!
After his final address, his official portrait was unveiled and now hangs in the state capitol. The artist behind the piece is a Spokane native, Grace Flott. She was born in Spokane before moving to Seattle, where she works as a painter and arts educator. Flott says she spent time with Inslee and his wife Trudy to get a sense of who he is before she began painting.
It's that spirit of collaboration, openness to new ideas, your spirit of service, and your dedication to environmentalism that I put into this work.
The portrait will now hang in the office of the governor, with Inslee's predecessors dating all the way back to 1857. Happening today, President Joe Biden will give his farewell address to the nation. The president is expected to reflect on his legacy and the challenges ahead for America. The speech will be delivered from the Oval Office at 5 p.m. our time. You can watch it live here on KREM 2 News. The state law limiting how much ammunition you can have in a gun magazine is being tested at Washington State Supreme Court. Yesterday, justices heard arguments over the constitutionality of a ban on magazines defined as high capacity. Justices needed to decide if limiting gun magazines to 10 rounds violates the right to bear arms. Washington legislators passed the law back in 2022 despite the ban. Gators Custom Guns in Kelso continued selling those magazines, defined as high capacity. And when the state sued the owner, Wally Wentz, he sued the state, arguing the law was unconstitutional, and a Cowlitz County judge agreed. Much of the debate centered on if a magazine can be considered an arm or not.
But I think the possession of them would necessitate that they are being used for defense of the state. It is to prevent, even prophylactically, tyranny of the government.
Large capacity magazines are not necessary for self-defense and are routinely used in mass shootings.
Ruling is not expected for months. If the Kelso gun shop owner loses in Washington's Supreme Court, his attorneys say they will try to get to the U.S. Supreme Court to hear the case. Spokane's sharpshooting has also joined several others in a federal lawsuit over the new law banning the sale of some semi-automatic weapons. Their case is separate from the one that was heard by justices yesterday. Happening this week, a sentencing is scheduled for John Eisenman and his fiancée Brenda Cross. The couple told a Spokane judge they are guilty of killing their daughter's 19-year-old ex-boyfriend. KREM 2's Brandon T. Jones live for us in Spokane this morning. And Brandon, this is a story we've been following for years now. What's next for the case? Good morning.
Yeah, good morning, Tim. Well, tomorrow at 9 a.m., that's when the sentencing is scheduled for. As some background, the couple did appear in the courtroom last week, and that's where Eisenman pleaded guilty to first-degree murder. Cross pleaded guilty to first-degree manslaughter, a charge that was actually reduced by prosecutors from first-degree murder. Court documents say at the time of his arrest, John Eisenman admitted to killing the teen who he claimed sold his daughter into a sex trafficking organization. Spokane police found no evidence that the victim participated in any sex trafficking of his ex-girlfriend. Eisenman told police he kidnapped the teen in Airway Heights, zip-tied his wrists, and beat him over the head with a cinder block. The teen's body was kept in the trunk of a car for a year before he was discovered in Hilliard. Police arrested Eisenman after tracing the car back to him. A year later, his fiancée was arrested for her involvement. Court documents say she admitted to a coworker that she helped kill the teen. With that sentencing scheduled for tomorrow morning, the couple could face a maximum life in prison sentence. But for now, reporting live here in Spokane, Brandon T. Jones, KREM 2 News.
New from overnight, the Grant County Sheriff's Office is introducing a new first-of-its-kind position to their team. Lanny Abundis is the first designated crisis responder for the Sheriff's Office. The Sheriff's Office tells KREM 2 it was seeing a rise in mental health crisis calls since the pandemic, sparking the idea for the role. They received funding for the position through a Moses Lake mental health clinic. Abundis says this role will give faster access in areas of the county her previous job had a hard time getting to.
The crisis team is located in Moses Lake, so if you had somebody calling in from Cooley, it would be maybe an hour and a half response time. Whereas the corresponding DCR, if they are already on patrol with a deputy, they would be able to respond immediately as soon as the deputy made contact.
The Sheriff's Office says it hopes the role is one other agencies can add across Washington state. 2 Grant County Sheriff's deputies have been placed on administrative leave after a man died while in the county jail on New Year's Eve. The Sheriff's Office says 2 corrections deputies were placed on leave January 2nd, 2 days after corrections officers found Richard Lambert dead in a bed inside the jail. The Sheriff's Office says paid administrative leave is common practice during death investigations and does not indicate suspected wrongdoing.
After the death investigation is complete, the Benton County Sheriff's Office will come in and do an administrative policy investigation to find out if there were any gaps in our policies or things that needed to be improved.
Right now, an investigation is underway to find out how the man died.
Another check of our weather forecast on this chilly morning. Thanks to the clear skies overhead, there's no fog here at our South Hill studios. However, the airport is reporting a bit of some patchy fog. Looks very isolated at the moment, but if you are heading in that direction to the airport for a morning flight, you will encounter some fog. Very standard stuff for the Spokane area. Otherwise, just absolutely quiet conditions across the inland northwest. There's less fog today compared to yesterday, and as such, there will be more sunshine as a result. Overall pleasant for this afternoon, but colder weather on the way by this weekend. And we'll look ahead at that long-term outlook in my full forecast in about 5 minutes.
Happening tomorrow, the Seattle Kraken will take on the Winnipeg Jets on KSKN 22. Your spot to watch Kraken hockey all season long. The Kraken are coming off a win last night against the Pittsburgh Penguins. Tomorrow, see if the Kraken can keep it rolling. That's at 4:30 on KSKN 22.